For Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. I'm just looking here at it's a major criminal investigation, and it's being reported all over the world. So the BBC in Britain, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation in Australia is covering it, and pretty much everywhere it's getting some either close or absolute headline billing. And just looking at the people involved now, you would think just on balance of probability, it's in an area that's 86% white, and so you would think on balance of probability that 3/4 plus of the people involved in this in the senior positions, whether it be in administrative or operations roles or frontline policing or government, apparatchiks or something, you'd think majority of them would be white, and given those roles, majority being straight white males. Well, gee, let's have a look here, and this is really an indication of where things are at today in the Western world. So the chief administrator is a white lesbian, and you don't have to look very far on her public pronouncements on social media. She's a hysterically anti-straight white male, anti-capitalist, anti-everything to do with whites. So even though she's white, she's a white lesbian, by the way, but a radical leftist Marxist, at least based on her public pronouncements. The police chief is a black male, and who has held, just a quick look there, he's held no senior positions ever, or even, you would say lower middle-level management positions. So clearly he's a DEI hire. I mean, you can't imagine someone more unqualified, and given the interviews that are online there, I would suspect he's mentally retarded. He's maybe got an IQ of 90 or something. So the operational director of the investigation is a brown third world midget peasant immigrant from a very third world basket case country that doesn't even speak English as a first language. He very clearly is struggling with English. So how did somebody like that get in there? Again, the guy has no credentials that would suggest he would hold anything other than a very junior job in the in this case criminal investigation operations role. He would be a beginner. He would be a desk clerk excuse me. So the chief publicity officer for the whole thing is a white homosexual male, and goodness knows, he's just like an apparatchik sort of guy. Maybe he's sort of services, real or imagined, that may have been rendered years ago or being rewarded, something like that. And the head investigator is a brown woman. I don't know if she's a lesbian or not, but a brown woman. But again, listening to her speak, I doubt the IQ is above 90, if that. So, so this is now, as you can imagine, the whole exercise, the whole investigation isn't really doing too good. There are people who shouldn't be in those roles, and maybe it was imagined that they would never be faced with issues that would bring the public spotlight onto them. I don't know, but clearly that every role here, it was looked at on the basis of ticking a diversity box rather than people who can do the job. Now this is not unique there, by the way. It's just that there's a public spotlight on it, and their inadequacy and incompetence and inability to deal with the issues is being exposed. I should add that a straight white male did sort of jump into the mix at one point, just very briefly, and if he was an improvement on the other, his main role was to run cover for all these other people, it seems. So his contribution was he probably could have done a good contribution, or a better one anyway. But the politics was such that he had to run protection and cover for all these incompetent people, or was instructed to do so. Globalist flunky. So he did that rather than deal with the issues and so on. Now this is again, I mean, everywhere I turn, in any direction, whether it's government services, whether it's call centres, whether it's medical centres, whether it's business, even business now. Most businesses are beyond incompetent. I think I mentioned in a video a little while ago that I went to a meeting for quite a well-known brand name firm, and they now rely almost exclusively on government contracts, so they don't have to be good anymore. But the entire top layer of management was female. I don't know if there's any lesbians in there. They weren't obvious if there were, but they're all female. The next layer of management down was nearly all female, quite a few brown people, third world people in that. There was one gay guy, and you've got to go to the third tier of management. Things like frontline sales managers and frontline maintenance managers and operations people. It's only there that you started to see a majority of straight white males. And where there's a job where you measure on performance, you have to actually do the job. It's essentially you do the job, and that doing the job is measurable. Whenever you see that, you then have majority straight white males. The CEO, the chick who is the CEO, who could, in a real world, she never would have got anywhere near the CEO's job. She viewed everything as a group. Everything was a group hug sort of approach, so that everything was by committee and everything was by, nothing could be, none of the girls had to take personal responsibility. The whole thing was structured that none of them needed or had to take personal responsibility or accountability for anything. Everything was by girly doll's house, sandpit group meetings and committees and subcommittees, and they would even form things like the steering committee for the committee, and so they're just professional flunky bureaucrats. No one had done a day's work. None of them had built anything, created anything, been responsible for anything at all in their lives. Here they were, on their multi-million-dollar salaries. I mean, that's the insanity of the world that we live in at the moment. All of them are diversity hires. Taking as an elderly relative, I take to the doctors and things like that, and she can't manage these things on her own, so I have to do a lot of hand holding on this one. But she the quality of the people, whether it be the doctors, the medical administrative staff, the whole sort of thing, there's no one you'd say who's competent in these areas. I mean, if you do come across one, which you do occasionally, you already go, wow, I mean, this is crazy. I've actually come across someone that knows what they're doing, and by the way, isn't giving me attitude at the same time that they don't know what they're doing. So this is at all levels, no matter where you look. What is the reason for this? Well, the reason for this is diversity hires. Now, on the backhand here, you can say that because wages of some of these jobs are so low relative to cost of living, are so low that they've created this tier, this structure of low-paid bullshit jobs, and that they just can't attract. Any straight white males get any sort of skills or competence will be getting another job. So they attract a lower quality candidate and a lower quality applicant, this type of thing, and they've got nowhere else to turn other than these low quality people. Therefore, you see the fallout from that. Now, there is an argument to be had there, and I do accept that. But then isn't it incumbent on you to give them better training? I mean, what else are you giving these people to make the job attractive, make them want to turn up for work? Why aren't you doing something else here to make this function, given, again, that it's a lower paid job? I didn't realise that just recently I accidentally discovered this, that there's like these nurses' aides that say take blood, for pathology type analysis. And being an elderly lady and taking drugs and and all sorts of, this relative, she's getting a blood test every 5 seconds, it seems. But the people that take the blood are generally at the bottom end of the scale, and you notice this half of them seem like they're mentally retarded. But I didn't realise that they're even the most qualified. They've got a number of stages. Even the most qualified person in that role still only gets around 75% of the average wage. So these people are amongst the lowest paid people. You can be working on the checkout at a grocery store and be paid about the same as what is allegedly purportedly a skilled job. And these people are sticking needles and doing fuck knows what into people. So you'd think they'd be trained to a higher standard and accordingly paid. But at the very highest level, they're only paid about 80% of the average wage. Now, I was talking to one of these nurses' aides, and in order to make ends meet, they rent this. She rents this. She's single, like 40 and single. Not the lookout, by the way. All she can do is dream of getting laid. That's as close as she's going to come to a relationship. But she rents an apartment and with like 5 other people, 3-bedroom apartments. So they're sleeping in the lounge room, and because they're all making some shit money, they have to live communally. That's the only way they can get by. And this is people who 50 years ago could have afforded to buy their own modest place. That's how much things have changed. But anyway, just looking at this, it was a stark realization that on this particular investigation, law enforcement investigation that's getting international attention, not one person involved in it was even remotely or minimally qualified to be holding the roles they were in. And a couple of them were just radical ideological activists, and their only concern is protecting the ideology, not actually doing their jobs. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.